Hello everyone. Tonight, Tuesday, April 7th, is a super pink full moon. So I am out here and just wanted to record a video. There's actually people around me, just taking walks or exercising or, walking their pets. So you might hear some stuff in the background. And so tonight I wanted to reflect and maybe do a meditation, but more than anything an offering. So I have some fire happening here just as an offering. And you can see the moon there. And so as I said, it's an offering, not really here to necessarily like teach anything, or I don't read fire. I don't know how to read fire, but again, just doing an offering and just like really more and more just working on being mindful that in our intention of expressing ourselves, that we don't do harm. So I say that to say that to honor the legacy of those that do and have been working with fire. Many indigenous communities, like for example in Guatemala, Mayan communities that work with fire. And so honoring them and just making sure that we're like following their lead, and just making sure that we're not offending or taking again in our attempt to express ourselves or spirituality. And as I said, today is a full moon in Libra, so Libra being a sign of balance, but so much more. And I've been doing these videos just as a way to connect, also as a way to record myself and just record what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, and and a lot of the times that's the way that I express myself. So for example, like knowing that today is a full moon, I wouldn't necessarily be able to like give you an astrological reading. Can tell you like the basics, but definitely check other people's work. But I just mainly work on what I feel, and just on decoding and expressing what I feel, and hopefully just supporting others in their search. So just focusing on my intuition. And I actually have this I wouldn't say it's a game that I play with myself, but it's just this exercise that I do where, again, a lot of the times I feel things. My timing is always a little bit off, where I may feel things before or after an event, an astrological event, or something like that. So even though I knew today was the full moon in Libra, what I've been feeling has been a lot around relationships. So I just been feeling that energy of relationships and partnerships, and just kind of feeling like the way that we define that, and just reflecting on my own relationships, and just reflecting on my own needs and my own self-care and like self-love, but also reflecting on, what I wish to see in partnerships, and also holding that, there's people that I love and that love me, and I've definitely come to a conclusion that it's not a matter of love, when it comes to relationships, or not necessarily as far as partnership. Um, so, that's just to say that there's definitely people out there that you love and you might not be in a partnership, right? But that doesn't, again, erase the love, or it doesn't erase, the connection. And then I've also been feeling just connected to, old friends. And I've been reflecting a lot on, we might meet people, or we might find things, such as books or songs, that we don't necessarily see the meaning or the connection in the moment, but that later on, when you've done some work, you actually see it, and it might come back to you. As I've been experiencing that a little bit, specifically with a book, Celestine Prophecy, where I had read it when I was a teenager. I had found it at a thrift store, and I really liked the title, and I picked it up and read it, and then I lost it or gave it away, and then it came back to me through one of my friends, and I love that it came back to me in this moment, just as a way to activate me, and just as a way to teach me something. So I feel like it might be similar with people, where you might meet someone and you connect, and you might stop seeing them in a while, and you each go do your thing, and then you come back, and you might be connecting with them again. And then, of course, there's people in our lives that we just have a little work to do, and we're always supporting each other, but also challenging each other, but just I'm learning to honor them, and just and see them, right? It's a matter of being seen and understood, and definitely feeling and realizing that many times where maybe I felt like a connection was missing, I didn't realize it was because I wasn't aware, or I wasn't listening, or I wasn't feeling. So a lot of the times we want to say that it's the other person, but it always goes back to analyzing what you're doing. So definitely we have some people in our lives that they're always going to be there, and you're always just coming back to each other to teach each other lessons and support each other in different ways. So I've been reflecting on relationships, and reflecting on partnerships and what that might look like for myself, and how I define that. Again, there's many ways that we can define partnerships. Doesn't necessarily have to be what's the definition that society has given us of monogamous relationship, or a hetero cis relationship. There are so many ways to define relationships, and so just the fire is getting in my ass a little bit. So just reflecting on that. So an exercise that you can do, it's just write down the qualities that are important to you, like being super clear about what is important to you and your needs, so that when you're in a partnership you're able to communicate that, because many times we don't even know, what our needs might be. So I think just like being really clear on that, on your needs and your wants, and like the things that nourish you. So for example, I've been reflecting on, I'm a person that like understands the world kinesthetically, by touch, and I'm also a person that understands the world empathically. So what I mean by that empathically is, for example, for me sometimes, or a lot of the times, or most of the times, to be able to learn and to be able to understand a space or a person, I need to physically be there. So what I mean by that is, for example, nowadays that we're staying home, if we're able, and that we're trying to do work from home in the middle of a pandemic. We're not working from home. We're trying to, do work. Sometimes I feel disconnected. Like if I'm working on something and then just like being away, like not being physically present in the space, or for example, like physically meeting someone, I just have a harder time connecting and being able to do the work. So I learned like empathically. So I was saying that to say that, for example, in partnerships, I'm a person that definitely needs I'm a person that needs just like touch, like physical touch, hugs, like whatever. So like that, and it also goes to your love languages. So I just like being reflecting on that, the things that nourish me, and the things that I would love to see in a partnership. So that's one thing that comes out for me. Another thing that comes up is being able to communicate emotions. And I think this is just like, I also feel like we all need to be able to do this. And of course we communicate our emotions in different ways, but that's something that I definitely need, to nourish me. And so I also just wanted to say, one of the ways that patriarchy has harmed us, and has harmed people, right? All people, is by making us believe this narrative that we shouldn't express our emotions, or like we shouldn't cry, or like we shouldn't show our emotions. So I see that a lot of people have suppressed their emotions, and it's just like really harmful. And it's not only harming them, but when you're in a partnership, that's definitely something that is harmful. It's very harmful for everyone, for mental health or physical health, or love life. So being able to express emotions is something that is like really important for me in partnerships. I also am a Taurus, Aries moon, Pisces rising. So I also need a person, or when I have a person that activates me, that just kind of puts me into action. Definitely that's a need for me. So anyway, so I'm just telling you all of this to say that you can do an exercise, right, of the things that you need, And not necessarily think about it in terms of partnerships, because you gotta like concentrate on yourself and do your work and love yourself, first. But do it in terms of like what is like how do you thrive best, and like what are your needs, right? So you can do this exercise as if think that you're a plant, or think that you're an animal or an elemental, and think about the things that you need to be able to live, and the things that nourish you, that give you life. So you can do that exercise. Yeah, and I think like partnerships, I know many of us just kind of also struggle with partnerships, and just finding the right person, or the right people, and a lot of the times it just goes back to alignment or timing. So just like also acknowledging that, as far as partnerships. What else? Partnerships, relationships. Again, as I said, definitely the most important thing is the relationship that you have with yourself. That's priority. I was definitely guilty of just kind of having codependency issues, and just kind of really like wanting to be in a partnership, and like really wanting to, or thinking that a partnership was gonna like fulfill me, or like making me complete. And it's just taking a lot of work to to heal from codependencies, and just to be healthy. And so I definitely been doing the work, and continue doing the work to be able to first and foremost have a healthy relationship with myself, and then if I'm meant to be in a partnership with someone else, or like or people, be able to come at it like healthy. So that's a little bit of the reflection that I wanted to share as far as the full moon. And speaking of relationships and the full moon, I also wanted to take a moment to do another reflection during this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic, which is the people that have passed, due to this pandemic. And my reflection is, every day we're seeing numbers, right? Like this many people have died worldwide, nationwide, in your cities. And what I haven't seen enough is their stories, their names. And I understand that right now we're in a moment where there's a lot of anxiety, where there's a lot of uncertainty, where many folks are having to be out there exposing themselves, and we're fighting for so many things right now. And so I understand that there's that, but I also wanted to take a moment, tonight during this full moon, this beautiful sky out here. And I just wanted to take a moment to pause for a moment, what's happening, and take a deep breath. And really honor and really make an offering, and really send our love and our energies. And if we can, maybe do a little bit of research on how you can support families that have lost a loved one, how can we continue to support causes so that we don't continue to lose people. But again, what I've been seeing a lot is just numbers. And when I was researching, as of an hour ago, worldwide there's 81,000 people, 259 that have passed due to this pandemic. And so that's a lot of stories, that's a lot of names, that's a lot of family members that I cannot begin to imagine in this moment. What is it like to be going through a global pandemic and losing a loved one, and just all the complexities and all the stories, like for example, our families being able to do funeral services, our families being able to say goodbye, like so much. So I just wanted to take a moment, to do an offering, especially with this fire that I have here, and really just pause for a moment. And so something that Guatemala, especially defenders and indigenous communities and the resistance in Guatemala, something that they teach us is memory, and making sure that we continue that memory, that we keep it alive, that we don't forget our loved ones. So just wanted to take a moment, again, like pausing. So maybe what we can do is like close our eyes if that feels comfortable. And we're gonna take 6 deep breaths. And I said 6 deep breaths because just like breathing with someone else, it could be a family member, or it could be like nature, or but just mirroring is what I meant. So by taking 6 deep breaths, just connecting to something or someone. And with tonight's energy of partnerships and relationships with ourselves and others and our community and our collective, just reflecting on that energy and reflecting on how we define this energy and partnerships and all of these things, and just reflecting on how do we want to define or redefine, or what meaning do we want to give to those that are gone, due to this pandemic. Just, and again, just being in solidarity and not forgetting. So really, really meditating on memory. And really meditating on just like we want to be seen. Us that are in this plane, that are quote unquote alive, the living, quote unquote the living, just like we want to be seen and we want to be loved and we want to be nourished and we want to be safe. I think those that are gone also want that, still want to be seen, and still want to be honored, and still want to be remembered. And so, making sure that we don't allow their memory to die, their energy, their love, just making sure that it's just a transition, but that we're still holding them here, and we're still giving them offerings. So just meditating on that. And again, also like sending love and solidarity to the families. And if you yourself have a family member that is gone, that has passed, that has transitioned due to the virus, just knowing that, just letting you know that, this intention here, this fire here tonight, and this moon, and this video just saying like I see you, and taking a moment and pausing and just sending sympathy, saying I see you in this moment, and your loved one is not a number. And I'm sorry. And I think, of course, also acknowledging that many folks that are gone, that it didn't have to be this way. And that they're, like part of, part of the work is holding others accountable and making sure that, we have the laws and we have the systems and structures in place to make sure that, no one has to go through this, right? And that no one's dignity is taken away. And so, just saying that because we know that, it is communities that have been historically marginalized, that are vulnerable in this moment. So indigenous, black, people of color communities, that again are being hit the hardest, and that are one way or another, more vulnerable. So just also like acknowledging that and making sure that we like as we continue to work on building the world that we want to see, that that we take that into consideration, and that we're making sure that we're working on changing that, because even though death, all of us at some point are gonna die, just like at some point all of us were born. But even in death, even in dying, unfortunately and unfairly, not everyone does it. Not everyone is able to have a dignified death, right? There's, again, like many variables, and I guess what I'm trying to say is even in death there's inequity. So making sure that, again, we continue to change that, so that that's not the case. we're just gonna stay here until this is done. You can light a candle if you have a candle or some incense. And being guided by this beautiful moon, this beautiful moon here. And continue to breathe.